A lot of people come to me and they say, Sean, what is the best sales closing line of all times? And while I can't ever say that there's one really, really good one, I can say there are a few. However, in this video, I'm going to share one particular use case, a one closing line that you can use today in your business for whatever it is that you sell. I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. I'm going to talk to you about why it's one of the most powerful closing lines ever. And of course, give you a story to lock it in. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. What's up, FlowChat Connector? Sean back at you with another bam high ticket tune up. Hope you're doing really well today. Make sure and smash that like button. Share this out to somebody that needs to get a little bit better in sales. And of course, if you find some value in this episode, please smash that subscribe button. Today, we're talking about something I think is really powerful. Somebody came to me once and said, Sean, what's the best sales closing line ever? In fact, it wasn't just one person. It was a lot of different people. And they said, there's got to be like one universal closing line. And a lot of these books and a lot of these coaches and courses and consultants and all these people that teach sales, they have like specifically books. They have chapters on closes, and they have this close and that close and that close and that close. In fact, there's a guy named Ben Gay the Third. Okay, so we got Ben Gay the Third. He wrote a couple of books, The Closers 1, The Closers 2. And this whole book, all it talks about is different closes that you can use at any time. What's interesting about that is the closes don't always work the way that you think they want to work, right? Sometimes it has a lot to do with more factors during the call prior to asking a closing question. So let's bring out Yoda and let's dive into what is one of the best sales closing lines of all times. Are you ready for it? Here it comes. Are you committed or just interested, right? Are you committed or just interested is one of the best sales closing lines of all times. Now you can see, think about weddings as an example. When somebody really commits to somebody else, they put a ring on their finger and it's for life, right? And that's where we want our clients to end up going. But a lot of the time when we're having these sales conversations, people are just interested and they're not actually committed. And so I want to share how to use this particular phrasing in this line for you so you can truly benefit from it today. So committed versus interested, there's really three kinds of topics that you need to think about during the sales conversation. The first one is we need to understand the level of dedication that our prospect actually has to deploying and getting into the mix. So if you're committed with a level of dedication, right? I'll give you an example. The committed are those who are committed, invest their time, their energy, and their resources without hesitation, right? They will dive in and they will do the thing in order to get the result. They're dedicated. They see challenges as an opportunity for growth and improvement, persisting through difficulties until they reach their goal. So they know it's going to be a bumpy road, up or down, left or right, good, bad, and ugly, but they're committed with their dedication to going through with it and winning at the end of the day. Versus those people that are interested, a level of dedication where there's just an interest level would be somebody who's merely interested that shows enthusiasm, initial enthusiasm, but their level of dedication can waver when faced with challenges or obstacles. They might pursue the goal as long as it's convenient or easy, but they may not have the resolve to overcome significant hurdles. So very, very clearly, we need to understand the level of dedication from a committed or interested standpoint when we're speaking with a client or a prospect. Secondly, we have to talk about long-term engagement. When you are committed for long-term engagement, committed individuals have a long-term perspective. They stay engaged with the process over extended periods, acknowledging that meaningful success often takes time. Their commitment is unwavering, even in the face of setbacks or slow progress. So they have a longer-term vision. So when you're speaking with your prospects, this is something to think about. Maybe having a conversation on, what does this business look like in 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Let's say we put this in place in your world. What does it look like down the road, right? Easy conversation to have during the sales conversation before we even use this particular closing line. Secondly, if you're a long-term engagement person, but you're just interested, that's going to be those who are interested might engage with the goal for a short-term period, or as long as it holds their interest. They may disengage if they do not see immediate results or if their attention is drawn to another or new interest. Again, long-term engagement is something to talk about. And lastly, almost most importantly, is sacrifice and prioritization. If you're committed and you're the sacrifice and prioritization bucket, it's those who are committed are willing to make sacrifices in order to reach their goals. This might involve prioritizing their goal over other pursuits or pleasures, displaying a high degree of discipline and determination, right? That's that stubbornness, that hard-headed, let's go get it done, do everything we can. Versus the interested, or those who are simply interested, are less likely to make significant sacrifices or reprioritize other areas in their life. They enjoy the idea or pursuit, but may not be prepared to give up other things to reach their goals. So those are three big buckets that you can have conversation about with your prospect, in maybe not even bringing up the bucket or the name of the bucket, but just talking through some of those questions, I think will be very powerful in terms of you growing the business with your clients and your prospects, right? So how do you use it, right? Here's a story that might lock it in, and you can create any story. Go to ChatGPT and ask them to write you a short story on this particular topic so you can get an example or two, and then maybe you can use it in your world. So let's talk about the story of Dave and Beth. So Dave and Beth are longtime friends, and they see each other once every so often, and they live in New York. And so Dave and Beth got together one afternoon for lunch, and they both had a love of and appreciation for music, specifically pianos. And so they went down the street and they found this piano store, because after lunch they're like, oh, a couple of martinis. They're like, oh man, let's go to the music store and let's go mess with some pianos. So they go into this music store and they see all these pianos, from like the flat back ones, the grand pianos, like all the fancy keyboards and everything else that's in there. And so Dave jumps right in and he starts playing on these pianos, listening to the different sounds. He tests a whole bunch of them, and he gets to this grand piano and he's like, oh my God, this one sounds better than anything and everything else ever, right? And Beth, on the other hand, she's like a little bit slower to jump into that. She starts methodically thinking through some stuff. She asks about, use cases for her. She considers where her apartment is. Dave has a little bit more space. And so Dave right then and there says, yo, I want this grand piano. I want it in my house. I'm going to play it. It's going to be fun and exciting, and I can't wait. He buys the big grand piano. Beth, on the other hand, does a little bit more diligence, and then she also decides to make an investment, but not in a grand piano, in a different type of piano. So they go home and they start, right? And Dave's in there and he's ripping on the keys and he's starting to learn some stuff, and all of a sudden his business gets a little bit busier, and so he stops playing this piano all of a sudden. On the other hand, Beth asked all the right questions and designed an actual strategy and structure from the beginning, and she starts playing diligently. Even though some of the days were harder than others for her, she eventually gets to the place where she starts to learn some songs. After about 6 months, Dave and Beth get together again for another lunch and say, hey, let's go back to the piano store. And Dave says, okay, I'll go with you. And as they're walking in, Beth discovers that Dave says, I wish I'd never bought that grand piano. I wish I could just take it back and not have it. And Beth said, well, actually, I can play some songs. And she sits down and she starts ripping out all these incredible songs. And so that's the big difference between being interested and committed, Mrs. Prospect or Mr. Prospect. You see, I'm looking for people that are actually truly committed. And one of the things that I focus on when I get started with somebody is I want to have that strategy, that vision, that game plan, that long term, making sure that we can sacrifice priorities and do these other things and get the result that we're actually trying to get. So I come to you and I ask, just very, very simply, are you interested in getting started with my service or product, or are you really actually committed and you want to go down the path and do this thing? And what this will do is it will force your prospect to take one side or the other. This is a prolific argument. This is a yes/no question. A lot of sales coaches say stay away from these things. I think there's a great place and a time to use a question like this. So now you know how to use it. Now you've heard a story that you can replicate in your own words. Use it for your business, use it for your life, use it for your kids, use it for just better communication overall. If this was helpful, make sure, again, smash that video, the like button, share this out to somebody that might be able to use this powerful closing technique. And of course, if you did get some value from it, please smash that like button. Excited to be here with you again. Can't wait to the next one, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.